Everyone always says that health, fitness, weight loss, and stuff like that starts in the kitchen, but I'm inclined to disagree. I would argue that it starts at the grocery store, making conscious decisions to prioritize healthy and nutritious foods to then take back to the kitchen. And this can be one of the more challenging parts of the process for multiple reasons. Access, information, self-control, that's a big one, but I think another common struggle is price. It always feels like food is getting more expensive, doesn't it? But it seems like this especially applies to healthy and nutritious food. And that does make sense. If you want something done right, it's probably going to cost more. Unfortunately, simply knowing that doesn't help the average individual on a limited budget. These minor increases add up, so it's a really good skill to have to know how to optimize nutrition relative to price. So I did a bit of digging and came up with 10 foods that seem to have some staying power when it comes to lower prices. Foods that are consistently the cheapest option to not only fill a particular role, but fill it well. Now there are a few limitations in this video. Obviously, prices change in unpredictable ways. I'm displaying these for the here and now, March 2025 when this video comes out. I can't guarantee these will be affordable in 2030. In fact, I can't even really guarantee they'll be affordable in April. This is a big reason why I've always been so hesitant to talk about price. It never really lasts. The other disclaimer is that what I'm talking about today is based on food in the US. So for all my viewers in other countries, I apologize. But I really do feel like it's not my place to make that call. I'm sure a lot of what I'll say will apply worldwide, and I'm sure much of it won't. Before I get started though, let's make this a community effort. If you have any nutrition and affordability advice of your own, leave it down in the comments section so that everyone can see. And without further ado, here are 10 foods that are nutritious yet affordable. And I think a good place to start is the start of the day, breakfast. And a consistently great breakfast option is fruit. And the most cost-efficient fruit is the banana. Despite having used other fruits for the role, to me banana will always be the definitive morning fruit. Your average banana is about 100 to 120 calories, containing between 27 to 31 grams of carbohydrates, and we know that carbs are the body's go-to source of energy. About 14 to 17 grams of that is sugar, roughly 6 to 8 grams is starch, and about 3 grams of it is fiber. Bananas also contain some crucial micronutrients: vitamin B6, vitamin C, magnesium, and of course, potassium. The nutrient content of bananas actually changes based on how mature they are. When they're less ripe, they'll contain more starch, and when they're more ripe, they'll contain more sugar. Despite having high carb and sugar contents, bananas have a reasonably low glycemic index, so they don't have as much of an impact on blood sugar as you might initially think. This is largely due to fiber and resistant starch, which slow digestion, and as a bonus are prebiotics that feed beneficial intestinal bacteria that aid the body in several ways. Due to this, if anything in moderation, bananas are shown to help stabilize your blood sugar. Bananas are also the go-to exercise fruit. The accessible carb content, along with potassium, an electrolyte often sought out when sweating, makes them the perfect choice for a pre- or post-workout food. And with all of this to offer, how much are bananas going to cost you? As of right now, you can get them as low as 60 cents per pound. That's like 20 cents per individual banana. For comparison to other popular fruits, a pound of apples you can get at about $1.40, a pound of oranges for about $1.25, and a pound of grapes for about $1.90. The only fruits that come even remotely close to the price of bananas is melons like cantaloupe and watermelon, which obviously lack the convenience factor that is one of bananas' main draws. All you gotta do is peel and eat. And next, a familiar carb source that's a bit more of a foundational meal food rather than an independent snack: beans. These are just a great set of foods overall. It hardly matters which kind you get. Black, red, pinto, kidney, lima, cranberry, they're all really cheap and they're all very nutritious. Beans are about 7 to 10% protein, 20 to 30% carbs, and 5 to 10% fiber depending on the specific type. They also contain thiamine, folate, copper, iron, magnesium, phosphorus, and potassium. This makes them one of the better plant proteins and one of the healthier carb sources. Or at least they're certainly more heart healthy and overall protective than most. Beans are also endlessly versatile. You can have them in salads, soups, chilies, as a meat substitute, or they can just fill a portion of your plate as a side dish. And the most important point is that beans are cheap. The national average is about $1.50 per pound, but if you get them dried, I've seen them as low as $1 a pound. This beats out every other cheap competition like lentils and peas, which per pound are about $1.50 and $1.80 respectively. If you do get dried beans though, just make sure you prepare them properly by soaking and thoroughly cooking them to rid of any harmful or anti-nutrient compounds. And how can you bring up beans without talking about their cheap partner in crime, rice? Though I specifically want to highlight brown rice. Although white rice is technically cheaper, and it's good to mix it in every once in a while to avoid any arsenic troubles, brown rice is where all the actual nutrition is due to it retaining the bran and the germ. It's another high-carb food, though it doesn't have the highest glycemic index, as it contains about 8% protein and 5% fiber. It's also rich in manganese, magnesium, phosphorus, selenium, and vitamin B6, as well as some flavanol antioxidants that make this a pretty heart-healthy grain choice. Brown rice is gluten-free, easy to work with, and again, super adaptable, so there's really no reason why anyone can't be taking advantage of it if they wanted to. And of course, the last factor is price, but I'm sure you could assume that that's not really going to be an issue. The national average for a pound of brown rice is about $2, though you can probably find it for much less. When it's that cheap, it'll need to be rinsed and properly cooked to rid of compounds like phytic acid. But after that, brown rice can be added to just about anything, just maybe not everything. Now, chances are all the keto bros already clicked off the video by now, but I promise I was getting to y'all, because you don't have to break up with meat to avoid breaking the bank. In fact, the most affordable meat is one you're probably pretty familiar with: chicken. Chicken generally requires much less maintenance than meats from other animals. It needs less time, space, and feed. Both white meat and dark meat chicken are a nutritional bargain, but what you may not have known is that on average, dark meat is actually cheaper. This is mainly because there's typically less of a demand for it. While white meat chicken averages at about $4 per pound, you can get the dark meat for as low as $2.50 a pound. To compare to some other popular meats, turkey and pork are usually at least $4 a pound, while beef is at least $5. Nutritionally, both white and dark meats are high-quality protein sources containing selenium, phosphorus, zinc, and various B vitamins. The main difference is that white is leaner, while dark is fattier. It's okay to admit that protein on a budget isn't easy, but I've always believed that it is the single most important nutrient to get right. And for a lot of people, chicken is going to be the best way to do that. You should get it raw and cook and prep it yourself to save the most. And then you should grill it, bake it, or stir-fry it to have it as healthy as possible. This is another insanely versatile food, the kind that you can eat every day, often twice a day, and you can find ways to make it never feel old. Next, I would say, is one of the people's favorite foods, though not in its most recognizable form. I want to shine the spotlight on canned tomato. Tomato is everywhere. It's very popular, very flexible, and pretty nutritious. It's rich in lycopene, vitamin C, and other antioxidants like beta-carotene, naringenin, and chlorogenic acid. Lycopene is the key here, as it's the main nutritional selling point for tomatoes. It's a wickedly powerful heart and skin preserver. Canned tomato is usually not only a bit cheaper, but it actually typically has a more bioavailable lycopene content. It's also often more flavorful, and of course it lasts longer. I personally, on many occasions, have had fresh tomatoes go bad because I don't use them fast enough. Another subtle way that getting them canned can save you money. Speaking of which, the average price for canned tomatoes is about $1.50, but you can find them as low as $1. While raw tomatoes average at about $2 a pound, though when in season, you can also get them for about as low as $1. Obviously, fresh tomatoes aren't that much more expensive, but in recipes where you're cooking them anyway, like in soups, sauces, and stir-fries, you might as well get them canned. The main downside is having to actively look out for cans with additives, preservatives, and excess sodium, but this is an alternative that I don't think many people consider. Another underappreciated sort of fruit, sort of vegetable that surprised me with its affordability is butternut squash. It's very low calorie and very nutritious, being super carotenoid rich while also containing vitamin C, potassium, magnesium, and vitamin E. Carotenoids and vitamin A are most known for preservation of the eyes, structurally and functionally, but it's also needed for development of several tissues, skin health, immune health, and reproductive function. Squash as a whole is also shown to help protect your heart and brain. Most squash are pretty cheap. The butternut variant you can get at about $1.40 a pound, though zucchini, acorn squash, spaghetti squash, and pumpkin are right on its tail. I've talked plenty about pumpkin in the past because it's the gold standard, and admittedly it doesn't cost that much more. However, butternut squash is an easy silver that I don't want to neglect. It is very good, very nutritious, very protective, and it works in many ways that pumpkin doesn't. I instinctively think soups and stews and chili, but it's arguably the single best low-calorie potato replacement. The texture just works in usual potato side dishes like fries or just in bite-sized chunks with some oil and seasoning. This is a criminally underrated choice that's as affordable as it gets. While all green vegetables are pretty great and most are reasonably priced, cabbage is often regarded as consistently the cheapest. Apparently, it's just really easy to grow, and we're specifically talking about green cabbage here, as purple cabbage is noticeably more, though it's still a fairly cost-effective option. Anyway, cabbage is a low-calorie green, rich in vitamin K and vitamin C, though not as absurdly so as others. It's antioxidant-rich, notably containing quercetin and camphorol, a couple of powerful protectors y'all should be pretty familiar with at this point. Cabbage does everything you would expect from a leafy green: water, fiber, inflammation combatant, just for less. You'll find green cabbage at about $1 to $1.20 per pound, while purple cabbage you'll find at a minimum of $1.20. The closest is broccoli at about $1.50, followed by iceberg lettuce and spinach at about $1.60, while kale and romaine lettuce are usually at least $2 a pound. Cabbage can be eaten raw or cooked by roasting, steaming, or sautéing, though keep in mind overcooking will reduce vitamin C content and, honestly, flavor. And cabbage can be included in salads, soups, or stews, and it's the main ingredient in stuff like sauerkraut and coleslaw. There really is no excuse for you to not eat your greens when they're this cheap. But okay, maybe greens aren't your thing. Well, some sort of vegetable should be. And there's another very affordable one that seems to be pretty universally loved: carrots. Carrots' calories are almost negligible, but what they offer beyond them is certainly not. They're mostly water and fairly fibrous, but most notably, they're unquestionably one of the best sources of carotenoids, mainly beta-carotene. This is a powerful antioxidant that protects several key bodily components, but most notably your eyes, your heart, and your skin. They're pretty difficult to go wrong with, and the only real concern is a potential allergen, because cost is certainly not a concern. A pound of carrots averages at about $1.30, but they can get as low as $1. This makes it the cheapest root vegetable, the cheapest popular snack vegetable, and arguably the cheapest source of carotenoids. Sweet potatoes are close, but carrots are far less caloric and require far less effort. They're also a very adaptable food. They can be eaten raw or cooked, and when cooked, their carotenoid content actually becomes more bioavailable. And carrots can be put in a salad, a smoothie, a soup, a stew. They can be juiced, roasted as a side dish, or just eaten raw as a snack. Every time I talk about them, I'm reminded why carrots are one of the most important vegetables in the world. It's not all just about eating clean, healthy, and watching your calories, though. There are some things that the body just needs, some nutrients most people aren't getting regardless of price. So how do you get them on a tighter budget? Easy, with canned fish. Specifically, I want to highlight tuna, salmon, and sardines. The most commonly canned tuna are skipjack, your light tuna, and albacore, your white tuna, while the most commonly canned salmon are pink and sockeye. Canned salmon is often wild caught, a point usually stressed due to more nutrition and to avoid contaminants. All three of these can be found canned in water, oil, and tomato sauce, among other liquids. But I will say, just pick water. It's the most versatile and you don't have to worry about any other potential additives. However, if you do buy it in oil, make sure to check which kind of oil it's packed in. Nutritionally speaking, all three of these are pretty great, but there is a bit of variance. Skipjack tuna is easily the lowest caloried and most protein focused. Salmon is the best source of the essential omega-3 fatty acids that most people are deficient in, and sardines technically provide a lot of both, but obviously for more calories. Micro-wise, all will provide vitamin D, a bunch of B vitamins, selenium, phosphorus, and sardines will give you some calcium. Interestingly, on average, canned tuna and salmon have far less mercury than their fresh versions, though obviously this can vary a lot. Of course, there's still other precautions, like how seafood affects uric acid, many may contain microplastics, and many other things that have been endlessly repeated. As for price, the actual topic of this video, you can find 4-ounce cans of sardines for about $1, so a little more than $4 a pound. Tuna usually comes in 5-ounce cans that can be found at under $1 a can. This puts it at about $2.60 per pound. And salmon is a bit more, with a 5-ounce can being a little over $2 or about $6.80 per pound. These feel like a bit more until you compare them to the fresh versions, where tuna is a minimum of $6 per pound and salmon is almost always at least $12 a pound. Protein and seafood aren't easy on a budget, but canned fish like these three are among the cheapest seafood options. They're great protein and omega-3 sources while still retaining safety, versatility, and flavor. And rounding out this video is the dairy duo of cottage cheese and Greek yogurt. That's right, you're getting 11 foods for the price of 10. Look at you already learning how to save. In reality, I just couldn't choose between the two because they are surprisingly similar in practice. Again, the main highlight here is protein on a budget. Both are about 10 to 12% protein, and both can be purchased low fat and low carb. They're both rich in vitamin B12, phosphorus, and selenium. While yogurt tends to be better for gut health due to its prebiotics, cottage cheese is shown to be rather heart protective, and these two really embody affordability. They average at about $2.50 per pound, but with a bit of searching, you can usually find them for under $2. The closest you'll come to cottage cheese price-wise is ricotta at about $2.40 per pound. As for Greek yogurt, it does cost more than the sugary yogurts, and there are other yogurt products that are arguably better, but not for the price. Greek yogurt and cottage cheese are flavorful, versatile dairy options that can help whether you're trying to lose weight, gain muscle, or just stay healthy. This is mainly because it's pretty much just protein, and again, protein is king in terms of all the ways that your body uses it. As I said in the beginning, fitness doesn't start in the gym, and it doesn't even start in the kitchen. It starts at the store, with the ingredients you buy to build out what you plan on nourishing your body with. Everyone knows that eating nutritious food can be a challenge when money gets involved, but it can be done. Hopefully this can give you a foundation to build upon for your new affordable meal plan. And again, if you have any tips relating to this topic, I seriously urge you to share them with everyone else. Now, if you enjoyed this video, or at the very least learned a little something, I encourage you to subscribe as I have plenty more of these on the way. I also encourage you to share it with someone who you think might find it useful or interesting. Go ahead and let me know down in the comments what other topics you think would fit this 10 food style. And remember that all I ask is that you do your own research and advocate for your body. You only get the one.